Well, why
things
did you
change.
want to record it?
Sorry?
Why did you want to record it?
Because what I'd like to do eventually is put it out, not eventually, but quite soon, put it out on YouTube, but also put it out on like Facebook and other pages to say, look, if there's someone out there wants some help, there are ways that we can help you, or there are ways that you can help yourself. Because I think, you know, for me, it's not going to be necessarily about what I can do, but what everyone else can offer. Because I think, you know, I don't want to say too much about my childhood yet, but I will say a bit about that first, because that's what seems to get me to do this. Good morning, Jess. You've got your camera off, love. Do you want to put your camera on?
Have I got it off?
Yeah, it's off at the moment. Down the bottom left-hand side is the thing that says video.
I haven't used Zoom before.
Okay, that's bless you. Oh, well done.
Bless her.
Yeah. If you run your cursor down to the bottom of the page, a little strip comes up.
My phone is going really. It keeps flashing, so like the screen keeps going really funny.
Does it?
Yeah.
Mine did that last week. I think I was having a
It
bit of a
keeps
panic.
going on. It keeps going on and off, but the audio is fine.
Okay. Okay. Oh, have it.
Yeah. It keeps going on and off.
Okay.
I don't know why.
Okay. Well, if you want to, are you okay to go with the audio? Because you've got a beautiful picture on there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I was just saying to the other ladies that I wondered, is it okay if I record this?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Because what my ultimate aim is if I've been through something, I assume that there's someone else out there who is probably struggling as well. And I don't think it's a coincidence that over this last 6 months that more children have come towards me with their problems, or more parents have come towards me with their children's problems, but it's actually the parents that need the help. So that's kind of my theme today, is happy parents, happy kids. And I've got to leave it with you for some thoughts, and I'd really appreciate some input on this, because this is all very new to me at the moment. I've had this idea for years to do this, but suddenly it's like, yay, come on, Dawn, you've got to do it. So what I want to say is, like, for me, if we're looking back, you know, how would I have met all of you people in the state I was in back there? Because I was so introverted, I would not have even reached out to speak to one person to ask for help. So, you know, the fact that you're all in my life is, to me, is a real blessing. And
It's
I think
so weird. It's so weird when you think about it like that, though, because like I was only thinking about it.
Okay, Jess, is that you talking, Abby? Because I can't see who's talking. Jess, can you hear me, love? Okay. If anyone wants to talk, that's a bit awkward for poor thing, Jess, because she's not actually on the telly. On the telly. Okay, come on, should we think big, girls? Let's think big.
Okay. Dawn, no, I really appreciate the concept of where you're coming from, because I do understand that when you are in that difficult place, you don't know where to begin. And sometimes it's like you're looking for answers, but you don't know what answers you're looking for. So having these little hub spots for sharing ideas and places to go to get discussions going is very often, it's like standing at that crossroads for people. There we go.
Hello. Hello, little lady.
Hello.
That's lovely.
And having somebody say, well, you know, it's not just a case of telling them you need that road, but asking them what they need to find at the other end of that road so you know where to direct them. And it is having that starting point is really, really important. So it's a really lovely concept. Thank you, Dawn.
Yeah. And thank you very much, Kay. And I know you've been through your own challenges, and I hope, you know, over either whether it's today or over the next few days, we can all share. I don't mean we've got to do it every day, you know, over the next few, however long it takes, we can share our experiences as well. Because I think if we've been through it, I do believe that our soul groups are out there waiting for us to step up and go, there is a way forward. I don't think it's a coincidence that we've been through. Yeah, of course you can, Bertie.
Yeah, just Kay was saying that ask them where they want to end up. But I would think that most people don't actually really know what they want at the end. They know they want to be happy, but what else? They probably don't really know. It's not. I don't think it's that easy to say where do you want to end up? It's not.
Okay.
If you ask me, I wouldn't be able to tell you.
No, actually, I think, yeah, for me, yeah, I agree with Verity. And maybe I didn't word that right, and that's why I want to put this out there today, because I'd like some input, because I have these all ideas in my head, and I'm like a little busy buzzy. But it's really important. I think it comes through in a nice way that people go, oh my God, what is she rambling on about? Because, you know, for anyone who knows me, I will ramble. But, you know, I think it's important. I'll come back to you in a moment, Jess, because I can see that you're flashing, and I will come back to you in a moment.
Yeah, that's all right. The screen keeps going on and off, and I think I'm having Wi-Fi trouble. So
okay, well,
I don't know what's going on.
Okay, if you want to try maybe leaving and then come back again, Jess.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I did that because I had to turn my Wi-Fi off, and then.
Okay.
If you want.
Yeah.
I can put.
Because like anything new, it's going to take time, isn't it?
I can put my headphones on.
Okay.
If you don't want to do it.
So coming back to Verity's question, I can't remember what the question was I just asked, but if I suppose my concept is, I know there's someone out there who's probably listening to this or will listen to this afterwards and go, oh my God, that's me. I can relate to that. That's why I've gone introvert. That's why I don't speak out. And when I look back at my childhood, I think I wish somebody just said to me, how are you? Or what's wrong? Or somebody just noticed that I was actually struggling. Instead, just cart me off to the doctors and get more water and infection tablets and more medication for sleeping and more for this and more for that. You know, I felt as though I was constantly being bombarded with something to soften what I was actually feeling. And I think for me, you know, with the work I do at the moment, and, you know, from people around me, what I see is there are children out there who would like a little help. And it's not necessarily that they know they need help yet, but it may be by sharing our stories and our experiences, we could actually reach out to those people and say, do you know what, if your daughter was going through this, maybe that mood isn't them being mean to you. Maybe they're doing it because that's how they feel today. So that's kind of what I'm
also feeling that people listen to them, because some children feel that nobody will listen to them.
Yeah.
So it's getting them to know that people will.
Yeah. And that was the hashtag I put out on Facebook this morning. Give me 5 minutes. I think if we can encourage parents to start talking about how they feel to their children, maybe that will encourage the children to start speaking about how they feel. You know, because, you know, I've been thinking about last couple of days since I set this out, as for most of my life, I don't remember anyone until I came to the remedies saying, how do you feel, Dawn? And I thought, that's quite a powerful concept, but nobody actually stopped and asked, why are you struggling with irritable tummies? Why are you panicking? Why this, why that? And I'm just trying to think, maybe I've got a blank wall there, which, you know, all that stuff is hidden behind there. But how many children out there are just going through and plodding through the day and just trying to get through it, but not actually feeling so happy inside? Christine?
Is it, Dawn, because parents are so busy? My parents were very busy when I was young. Plus they were war children, if you like. And then I was born just after the war, so I'm old. But the thing is, they never did. They weren't asked if they were okay. So they never were brought up in that concept of asking, like me as a child, was I okay? And did I feel okay? I never got asked that. And I don't think I've ever been asked that actually until now, this part of my life. And people are saying to me, are you okay? And they're concerned about your health, your welfare, and they're being considerate. And I just wondered, even today, how many parents actually sit back and think, am I okay myself? Are my children okay? And ask that question. Because I think some families do, but I think there's a lot of families out there that don't. So how would you engage with them as a parent to say, sit back and think, am I okay? How am I feeling? And then sit as a family group and ask the children if they're okay. So how could you do that?
Well, I think my thought is, and please, if anyone's got anything to say, just, you know, please say so. If you put your hand up, that's probably easier, because I think we've lost poor Jess for the moment, and she's got a lot of really important information. Here she comes again. She's got some really important information to talk about. Jess, I can still hear you, madam. You're there. Okay. We were just saying, how can we start to engage with our children, Jess? And for me, I think I was always very, very honest with my children. So if I was having a bad mood day with their dad, I would tell them so. I didn't want them to wonder what's going on, because I spent a lot of my life wondering what was going on, or not hearing all these shouting and bawling and people fighting and feeling afraid of it. And nobody ever stopped and explained to me what was going on. Oh, we're just having a fight about something, or we're just disagreeing about money, or we're just worrying about that. And I think if we can just start with that concept, it's like, oh, do you know what? I've just had a really bad day today. Do you mind spending 5 minutes with me, just listening to me and encouraging our children to listen to us? They will start feeling that they can open up to them. That's just a thought. What do you think, Amy?
Yeah, I was just thinking about like the sense of belonging, and it might not necessarily like with parents and things, but even at school and things. So like when you go to school, all they care about is grades. Teachers are thinking more about that than they are about people's feelings. So then people go on to think, oh well, people don't really care, so you keep everything inside. But then when you go through these experiences, you then find people who you connect with who resonate with those experiences. So then that's probably when you find you get the support you need, because you know other people then who have been through similar experiences. So that's how I am thinking about it at the moment.
Yeah, and I think that feeling of belonging, it's one of our primitive states that we need fulfilling.
Definitely.
And if we're struggling somewhere and mum comes home and she's busy doing the dinner and dad's off doing whatever dads do, where does that child release what they're feeling? And I think that was my feeling. You know, it's like I never even thought about talking about it, if it makes sense. I don't know why.
It's probably because you probably get so used to thinking that way that it becomes the norm. So it's kind of having to challenge that mindset, and it's only until others who get you and like have those similar experiences that then things start to happen and your mindset starts to change, I think, to get that support.
Yeah, it does. And I've been very grateful, because Verity has known me for quite a lot of years now, haven't you? And sometimes I would turn up at her doorstep in a I am okay mode, and the second she asks me what's going on, it's like the floodgates open. And I think we all need that safe place to be. And if mum and dads are busy all the time, is there that safe place for the children? And I'm not generalizing, because I know a lot of children are probably, you know, really got great parents. I know Verity's one of those really good mums. I know that. I don't know the other side's mum, but it's like, I was just so grateful that I was offloading, if that makes sense. I always felt a mess. I always looked a damn mess every time I turned up at her house. But the bottom line is, I would feel this lightning in myself. And I think, you know, Kate Middleton was talking about it this morning, and some lead dancer was talking about it. There is such an awareness of mental health or not being happy, but they're putting up there as mental health. I think we need to start right at the bottom and go, what's happening at home? Can you hear what I'm saying? It's like, hey, excuse me, I've had a really bad day here. Sorry that you've got to cook the dinner, and I'm sorry that you want to go and talk to your friend on the phone, but actually, what about me? And it makes it sound like I had a really bad childhood, and I think I must have done, but you know, my mum and dad were doing the best they could. You know, my mum was
also when we were young, like Christine was saying as well, we just got on with it. We weren't actually encouraged to talk about how we felt. And I'm probably the same as you. I keep everything inside. I don't let it out because, you know, it hasn't been a thing that I've done. So I find it really hard to actually let my feelings out. I think that was just the age that we were brought up in, really.
That is so true. Our little granddaughter, she's beautiful. Okay. Don't worry, Kay, we're quite happy in watching you play.
Sorry, I didn't realise she's on screen. I thought I was trying to keep quiet.
No, don't worry, that's fine. Do you want me to
listening very intently, and I'll tell you what, I do understand so much of this. And as I was saying earlier, it is about yes, helping. I know we don't know where we want to end up, but that's the whole point. When you're standing at that point where you've got so many roads to choose from, you don't know where to begin. So that's where it is important to have people help you decide what it is you're dealing with now. And one of the things is, we're saying about children and they're going through all the stress and anxiety and depression at school. Like an importance of feeling that they want to belong. But what happens, I think, is parents get stuck in this almost like this groundhog moment of coming back to this day after day after day, but not knowing how to get out of that loop. And it's about finding a different way to find a happier future. And it's like you get fresh chance every day. But when children don't feel like they belong in the education system, or they don't feel like they belong in their family because they're always put second place or in last place, and they do have those feelings even if it's not intentional, this is where if we don't catch it soon enough and don't catch those parents and don't help them through, we end up with children committing suicide in their teens, even early, you know. My son did not fit the school education system, and my son first attempted suicide at the age of 8. And that's not acceptable for any child to have to go through that. And it wasn't until I actually took him out of school and home educated him that he completely changed. But then he went through it again in his teenage years. And as much as there's all the help in place for these children, trying to get that help is almost impossible. And then they'll have a good day in front of our psychologist and go, oh, mum's making it all up. And they just say, it's fine, we don't need to see you again. And then you're living with it all again at home. So it's the parents that need the support, and the parents that need to know, not necessarily know the answers, but first of all, know what questions they need to ask. And I heard somebody this morning having a real like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. I'm stressed. I've got this problem with my child. They don't want to go to school. Where do I begin? And it was so great that this person's had the courage to just even put a plea out there on Facebook this morning that I could answer them. And give them a link to a website. Go and look at this. Give me a call, you know. But it's just having that place to start. Just right here now, I need to make a decision, which road to go, and having someone to stand there beside you and help you make that choice.
Yeah, absolutely, Kay. Thank you. And thank you for sharing. And I didn't know that about your son, so thank you.
He's happy now. He's got a little girl of his own and they're doing really well.
Oh, fantastic. Well done.
Can
I come to Jess, please?
I can totally get it. Yeah, I can totally get what she's just said, because I mean, I think another reason why a lot of people, they don't actually speak out and ask for the help is because, number one, they are scared of like the stigma attached to it, or even still in like, I know things are getting better now, but there is still that stigma attached to it. And like most people, they don't even know where to look for the help or how to even ask for it. And like that's the first step. But and then the next step is once you've actually got that help, is some people, is the question, quite often the question is asked is put back onto you. So like if you say you go to the, because this is what happened to me, so like say like if you go to the doctors, then they go, how are we supposed to help you? But sometimes you don't always know that. And then I can totally understand like when she said about her son in the school, because I went through the same thing. And like at the age of 17, I didn't fit into the school system, and at the age of 17 I tried to take my own life, and I was then sectioned, and it hasn't been up until recently that, I mean, I still wouldn't say that, even though I've been more open about how I'm feeling and that I've got the help that I need, I've still felt massively let down. But then not everybody is like me and can still manage to talk about it. So I can see where people would quite often get lost in the system.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you, Jess.
I wish actually that education would realise that it doesn't suit everybody, because you know, you're trying to fit everybody into this one system, and it doesn't work. It's fine for the majority of children, but not everyone. True. And they suffer.
It just does not work. Well, I mean, I know I didn't fit into it, and my head teacher told me that he wouldn't pay for me to do another exam because he didn't believe I'd pass. So when you've got people like that out there, and you know there's quite a lot of people that put young people down nowadays. I mean, there's so much. I mean, the mental health and people talking, that has come so far already, but everything needs to be moving at the same process, if that makes sense. Because it's all right us talking about it, but then when we talk about it and we don't get a response from that, that's when people go back.
Yeah.
Because it takes so much work, it takes so much effort and, you know, work to build the courage up to then say, actually, I do need help, to then be met with a response with nothing.
Yeah.
That completely crushes someone.
Yeah. And
And
I
then
really get
that then turns, you know, that makes them feel like I've just built up the courage to then tell you to tell somebody this, but then what was the point of me doing that, because I haven't got the help at the end of the day.
Yeah, I quite agree with you, Jess. And then your self-worth goes down because you don't feel like they care.
Yeah, because that's what happened to me. I've struggled with my mental health for a good few years now, and you know, I was sectioned last year, so into Christmas last year I was in hospital in Helston, and don't get me wrong, the help that I got in there whilst I was in there was bloody amazing, but it's the community team that let me down. So with the time I spent 3 months in there, and the time that I spent in there, and I built myself up ready to come out, I felt like I'd done all that for no reason, because when I was released, I then went back to square one of not having no help at all.
Yeah.
So I kind of felt like, and then it was like, I kind of felt like there was no point of me doing all that hard work and trying to improve myself, because it was then all put in the bin afterwards. But not everybody is as resilient as I am, like, you know, who can talk about it. And because I kind of said to myself that I'm not going to get the help that I need unless I start helping myself. But so I've actually started helping myself, and I haven't had any help from professionals, and I'm still meant to be under them, but I'm not. So I can totally get it when a young person goes, "Can I have some help?" and then they're just completely shut down. I mean, the mental health talk, it's all right people talking about it, but when there's no response to be met when somebody needs help, that's when you can lose people.
Absolutely. And I'm sorry that you've been through that, Jess, and I knew you before this all happened, and you know, I think accumulation of things, sometimes we don't realize just how stressed we are as parents and adults. With everything that's going on in the world, it's like, how we're not dealing with it so great every day. How on earth are the children feeling? You know, it's not just about the virus, is it? It's about accumulation of things. And I think my thought is how can we help? You know, we're just normal people. We're not Kate Middleton. We're not the fancy dancer off of Come Dance With Me, whatever it is. How can we as normal people relate to people out there and say, come on, there must be a way forward? And you know, each of you have been through your own experiences, and maybe you could come together and share things that we've, you know, found helpful, or introduce maybe other.
Without thinking about it too much, I think that we're so, like, for doing stuff like this now, we are already helping people.
Absolutely.
Because people, so, you know, somebody might listen to this back and go, actually, if they can share it, then, you know, I might have the courage to share it, or to share what I'm going through. And we can help people like that. But then it's the physical side of how can we help someone physically, and I think that's the answer that nobody knows, not even professionals.
No. I don't think any one person has probably got the whole answer, and I think this is where my idea is like, if we built a little community, maybe we could do this with ourselves, you know, and you know, bring forward some ideas, and then maybe we could have a chatty Friday where we invite people in to say, does anyone want to talk to us? Is there anything we can offer you? Because I think you do need a team of people. It's not, you know, I've put my hopes and prayers into one person for a lot of years, and then that person had to step down. I felt totally devastated that she couldn't be there for me. And I think, you know, to have a community of people that you can turn to would actually be a much more viable proposition.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I think collaboration is often the key in community, because more changes can be made there than one person can do themselves. So I totally agree with that.
And what do you say, Kay? What would you like to say then?
I was going to say some really valid points there, and I think first of all, Jess, as I'm again really sorry to hear you've been through all that, but you've really spoken about the pivotal moment that these groups are about, and that is helping people to understand what they can do to help themselves.
Yeah.
When you can't get professional help, that is one of the really key points, because a majority of people, and you hit another trigger word for me, and that's stigma. And I'm right, I hate the fact that there is a massive stigma around mental health.
Yeah.
And I see there are two things we're dealing with. There's mental health and there's emotional health.
Yeah.
And I see them as two separate things, but they're like this. So mental health and
They
emotional health
tie
are
in.
like
They
this.
tie in.
Yeah, and I think it's getting people to recognise the difference between what is mental health and what is emotional health. Now, my son, as I said, well, actually, my son was suicidal for about 12 years, so it wasn't just the one-off. But he has Asperger's, which is autistic spectrum. Now, that is the mental health side of it. But these emotions were separate, because whether he has the Asperger's or not on any day, he can be happy, he can be sad, he can be angry, he can be depressed. And that's the bit he needed to take control of. Not the Asperger's is there for life, but he could still take control of his emotions.
Yeah.
And that's where I see emotional health as separate. And I want to challenge that stigma. Once I finish the current book I'm writing, I want to challenge that stigma about mental health and help people to understand emotions separately.
Yeah.
And when you can work through the emotional side of it, what's left is the mental health to deal with. And there will still be a lot of people need help, but so many more could help themselves. And it's,
I think
that's
it's
really
about.
important.
I think it's about putting more like resources out there, so then people who are struggling to get help, and it's not just people who are struggling to get help, but for those people that are still not at that stage and not ready to talk out. I think there needs to be more like resources for like targeted for those people, like so they can help themselves. Because I mean, I consider myself as one of the lucky ones. I mean, I just had the right connections and I was involved with the right people, and lucky enough they helped me, and that's how I got into youth work, etc. But not everybody is as lucky as that. Like a lot of people are on their own, and I think also, as what she was saying, like, you know, I think the emotion, like people need to, sort of, I don't know how to put it, but emotions are like completely separate, and they are like, it needs to be like, people need to feel like it's more the norm to kind of like experience all these different emotions.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jess, because I think most of us don't identify what we're actually feeling. We just go through and we keep thinking about it, and we think about it, and we just deal with it. I don't think we actually realise or stop and process the impact of what is actually happening around us, it has on our emotional well-being. And I think that's a really good point, Kay, when you said about separating the mental health from the emotional health, because every thought we have could become an emotion in our body, and if we don't at some stage get heard or validated what we're feeling, it just accumulates. And sometimes some people are really good at dealing with it. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, Dawn. And it's very much like we talk about it in terms of being alcoholic. You can't deal with it until you're aware of it. All the time they're in denial, they'll never deal with it. And it's the same with emotions. All the time you're not aware of what emotions you're dealing with, you can't resolve them. So that first step is realizing, actually, I am lost. I need to understand what's going on, and actually learning about that emotional awareness.
Well done. Thank you.
Emotions, like they do physical pain, then I think people would have a completely different aspect of it. But because you can't see emotions and you can't see mental health, some people don't think it's there or worth talking about. But if you've got a broken leg, that's obvious. You're in pain and you need some help. But I think it's quite straightforward, and people know how to help you because they can see it.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think most of us, there's a bit of I think stigma was the word that was used, but I think most of us are embarrassed to admit that we're not coping. I remember when I had my daughter, I thought I was the worst mum on earth. I thought I was the only woman in the world that couldn't seem to cope with a kid. I was like, oh my God, I'm failing. I felt I was letting her down. I felt sick inside every time I wanted to feed her and she was still crying. I'm like, nah. That was like a mental bomb going off in my head. And it wasn't until I had my son 8 years later, I actually realized that nearly every mother goes through that. But I couldn't have validated that. I couldn't have spoke to people about it. I just went deeper and deeper into what I'd call the pain in my head. And I think it really did impact on my daughter, because she was really nervous at the beginning. She, you know, she's coming out of that now, but it's like, it's took a lot of years to overcome probably what I actually went through, if that makes sense. And I think, you know, I think in my head, I think, oh my God, if we can reach out to one mum and say, what you're going through could impact on what your daughter's gone through. And it's not your fault, love. It's okay that you're struggling. It's okay to reach your hand out and say, I'm having a really bad day today. You know, something else nearly came out. But it's like, it's okay to say that I'm in trouble here. Because there's such an, it's almost like a bit of a shame or embarrassment about reaching out and saying, I'm not doing very well right now. Why should that be? If we can't do it, how can our kids do it?
I think, again, coming back to that point of beginning and having somebody help them decide which route they need to take, is, are you talking about, you know, asking them things, are you talking about something that's a trauma from before you had children that's still there? Is it about postnatal depression? You haven't managed to find a way over postnatal depression? Because life is all about changes, and when life changes, you have children, that's not a change that you can suddenly undo and give them back to get rid of those emotions in you. Is it something, like for me, my instinct was that there's something wrong with my son. With my daughter, everything was fine. But when I had my second child, I hit the depression, but I kept saying there's something wrong with my son. And they kept saying, no, you're depressed, giving me tablets, telling me that I was the one with the problem, sent me for counselling. And I kept saying, no. I said, it's, and it was, he was 8 years old before he got the diagnosis of Asperger's.
Oh, bless you.
But the first time I'd ever said to my mum, without even knowing what I'd said, I said to my mum, it's almost as if he's autistic, was when he was just 10 weeks old. So very often all of this stress and anxiety can come on the back of an instinct. Motherly instinct is really, really powerful.
Yeah.
But if you don't know what that instinct is telling you, and you don't know where to get the help, and you don't know who to turn to, that's why these groups are really, really important, to help people like that identify this could be what you're dealing with. It's worth exploring this route. Try and talk to these people. If not, come back here and we try a different route. But it's about not giving up.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I know Jess wants to say something in a minute. I just want to say something though, because I think it's really important, a message for anyone who's going to listen to this after we've put it out there, is sometimes you won't get the help you need through the first person you ask. It doesn't mean that nobody cares. You still need to reach out to another step. Because I remember, like, when I come into Verity's life, I can't remember how we come together. I think I was the teacher doing a spiritual group, and she came in as my student. Now, that's not really ethical to start bombarding your student with all your stuff, is it? but it happened. You know, it was the way it was. And so she ended up becoming more my counsellor than just my friend, you know, really. So
I just listen well. I'm a good listener.
You are a very good listener. But also you're a teacher, aren't you? So you'd learn listening skills through your teaching. And do you think that helped you as a parent, or was that something that kind of came naturally?
No, because I was a parent first. And it was, I went into teaching. In fact, I went into teaching as a mature student, and nearly everyone on my course was a mature student. And we went into teaching, A, because we weren't happy at school and we didn't enjoy school, or B, our children weren't happy at school and didn't enjoy it. And that's quite surprising, really, isn't it? And one of my main things with teaching, going back to the well-being, was children who came up. I used to be in the top end of primary, year 5 or 6, and who hadn't enjoyed school at all, and they felt that none of the teachers have liked them, and they just didn't want to be there. And one of my things was just trying to help them to understand that, yeah, you know, I do like you and we do listen. And so, and I was just surprised at a number of children who've been all the way through primary school and felt that none of the teachers liked them or listened to them. Yeah. And I just tried to change that a bit around. Like I say, because we went into teaching for some reason that we weren't happy at school, our children weren't.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that
on in it to try and help children.
Yeah.
You know, not just teach them, but actually to help them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, you know, what you said there is about listening. we all assume, I don't know, I've done it myself. I joined something, earlier this year, and then felt like, oh, I don't belong here. No one's listening to me. I don't want to be a part of this anymore. So I just walked away from it. Now, if I'd have stepped up and said what I was feeling, first of all, I might have got a bit of a backlash, which I probably was afraid of. Nobody wants to upset anybody, do they? You know what we all like, we're people pleasers and want everyone to be happy, and we want them to like us. But stepping up and validating how you feel sometimes is scary. Just doing that, and just like what Jess said earlier, just having the courage to step through the door and go, actually, do you know what, you're really getting on my nerves right now, or that's really upset me. Most of us don't do that. We just tend to assume that person doesn't like us. We don't think of that. They're already busy doing 40 other things. We assume it's down to a rejection of us. And I think this is where, I'd like to validate to anyone who listens to this, is like, you are important as well. You are important.
Look, I just go back. I think being a mum made me a better teacher, not the other way around.
Okay. Oh, brilliant.
Because you realise as a mum that when a parent comes to see you, all they're worried about is their child. They don't care about the other 29 in the class, and I think that, I don't think, if you become a teacher, went from school to uni, back to school, you haven't had life experiences. So you can't relate quite so well.
That's very true, actually. One of the most powerful things I ever learned as a mum, because I actually, from the age of 9, took my son out of school and I taught him at home. And literally one of the most powerful things I could ever learn was that all children want to learn, but they don't like being taught. And the minute I stopped teaching him, oh my God, I couldn't stop him learning. He learned whatever he wanted to learn, and he did a really good job. So he went from at 9 years old at school, barely writing his name and date on a piece of paper, and then having fixed and throwing furniture around the classroom. So at the age of 13, he wrote his first novel of 25,000 words.
Wow.
And that's the power of stop teaching them and let them learn.
Yeah, they do. I mean, kids do want to learn, and they learn far better if they like the teacher as well. And I think once they've liked the teacher and they accept the teacher and know that the teacher likes them, then they accept being told off and realise the teacher isn't telling you off because she doesn't like you. She's telling you off because she wants you to become, well, I'm going to say a better person, but that's not quite right. But just wants you to behave the way you should and to learn and do the best you can for yourself.
He had a slightly different experience though, because he was actually bullied by his teacher. And I had literally, this is in primary school, I had 5 children in 1 week approach me either in the playground or outside school and tell me that they'd seen him being bullied and then seen the teacher blaming him for it. He was getting told off for being bullied. So I spoke to the teacher and said, look, come on, I've had 5 children in a week actually concerned enough to come and tell me this. And she said, well, children are hardly reliable sources of information.
Wow.
And this was a teacher who was hired. She was supposed to be an expert with Asperger's. And he was so traumatised by being in class with her, it was ridiculous. And it was 16 before I could even have the conversation about him with school without him going, it just physically reacted on him, just the mention of school for years.
You did the right thing taking him out, because you can't say in a situation like that. Did you go to the head? Because obviously the teacher really needs to be.
We did go to the head, and at the time the head was also the county head. Right. And we had an awful, my husband went, and my husband did not do the schools. My husband earned the money, I had to do the school bit. But my husband went to the school and came away with a message that all mothers are overprotective, and basically that people with, or children with mental health problems can find a suitable place in society later on. And he gave 2 examples of one person who had mental health problems but were able to find a meaningful place, and another person who he described as being cabbagified. And by the time my husband came away, he said, I was disgusted. He said, I knew the first one was a he, but the other one, he said they referred to him as it all the way through. I don't know if it was a man or a woman.
Wow.
And this was county head level. So my husband at this point says, I don't agree with you taking him out of school. This is the sport I had to fight at home as well, sometimes at home. My husband said, I don't agree with you taking him out of school. He said, but I know what you're like when you make your mind up. He said, I'll promise you this. He said, if you take him out and it doesn't work, I won't say I told you so. He said, but if it works, then I'll be pleased.
Yeah, well done.
So that, I was even having to fight that lack of support at home, but like that was that was his way of saying, I don't agree, but he didn't see a better option. So,
Wow.
And it was awful that, you know, you had a head and a teacher like that. I'm sorry, it shouldn't have.
Yeah.
There are some good schools. They're good teachers. They're brilliant head teachers.
Yeah.
There's brilliant support staff out there. The luckiest thing I had going for me at the time was that the support teacher in the classroom, or the assistant teacher, was actually my next door neighbour, and I was very close with her, have been for many years. So that was the only good thing I had going for us there. But taking him out of school was the best thing I ever did, and I never looked back. At 10 years old, somebody said to him one day, "Oh, what's it like having to be at home with your mum all day, every day?" And he went, "Oh, it's symbiotic." He said, "We learn from each other." It was like, I had to go home and look it up. There's this 10-year-old teaching me words by now.
I think it proves though that it's not like where most schools are going wrong. They're focusing on the grades and the GCSEs, and obviously they're targeting so many young people, and they're putting in, like, all these young people into one category that it's just not working. So it just proves that it's not all about, like, that's the academic side of things. It's about the relationship that you have with, you know, your go-to person. So that could be your teacher or the head teacher or your mum or, you know, your parents or whoever. But it's about the relationship, and, you know, the relationship that you have with that person, because once you've got that relationship and once you've got that foundation, and you find yourself naturally teaching one another anyway.
Absolutely, yes. And I think that's a valid point. And I think if I'm listening to what everyone's saying, it's like, thank you so much for your input today, because this has all been triggered off recently by an incident around my grandson. And he came out of school one day, and I'd heard that he'd been really naughty, and he wasn't allowed no treats, no Xbox, no, you know, all the nicey things this weekend, because he's been really naughty. And I'm like, okay, what caused that then? That was my first thought. Not just you're naughty, but what caused that? And anyway, he came out, and he wasn't in a very good place. I could see with his head down and everything, and he didn't want to play, and he didn't really chat. And I thought, okay. But Mummy had told him off. Daddy had told him off by then. The teacher had told him off. He'd been to the headmaster, and they all told him that being naughty is getting irritating. They didn't say what's wrong or blah, 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 anything like that. Just suddenly he got this label of being naughty, and he said, nobody listened to me. And anyway, I took him off to the beach, and we sat and talked in the car, and it was like, what's the matter? And he said, nobody's listened to me. They just kept telling me it was my fault. And what he did, he ended up kicking somebody, because this other kid was kicking someone else. So he stepped in he doesn't like seeing people get hurt. And basically, he was being punished for trying to stick up for a friend. And I'm like, well, why wasn't no one listening? And I was furious by then. But anyway, I didn't do anything about it there and then. I just talked about him, about the teacher, and how she's probably stressed, and how she didn't see the whole picture. And tomorrow, the teacher's got to listen to you. And I kept saying this thought, tomorrow the teacher's got to listen to you. And we sat and wrote a little note about how he was feeling, about what had happened. We did a painting, and I want to show you the painting that he did, actually, because this is the one he did on that day.
Oh, wow.
And I said to him, I said, why the black hole? He said, that's got to be there. And that was how he felt on that day. And so for me, you know, if I can turn it around, this is where I'm really pleased to be working with Amy, as like,
yeah, it makes sense.
Actually showing me exactly how he felt that day.
Yeah.
And this is what I want to maybe take this into, doing creative workshops. Like
yeah, definitely.
Whoever wants to join in. Because this black spot, I said to him, this was actually lots of colours, and he scraped all the colour off with his little palette thing and put that in the middle. And I said to him, why the black hole? I said, should we cover that? He said, no. He said, that's got to be there. And that's done. And he gave it to me. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. But to me, you know, that meant a lot, because I could see that black hole was exactly how he felt right then. And nobody around him was listening. And later in the day, after we'd had a talk, this was the one he did, which is like red and the blues. So the blue for me is about communication, and the red is about feeling safe now. I can talk about how I feel. And through that conversation, you know, when we're sitting painting, he always asks me now, he said, can we have a painting date? And I know first he loves painting, and so do I. But he's got things on his mind. And when we're sitting there, we talk things through, and I don't say a lot. He just suddenly starts rambling. And it just gives him that space. And I think, you know, if we can actually, that was, you know, the concept of what I was thinking when we started this, is like, how many times do parents go work, rush, dinner, bed, and they're not given 5 minutes in between just to sit down and go, do you not have a really bad day? Do you want to sit down and listen to me, Penny? Do you want to listen to me, Lucy? Tom, can I just talk to you? And by giving children a listening ability, they're actually also giving children the ability to talk about how they feel. And that's all it takes sometimes, 5 minutes just to stop the day and turn things around.
Like I said, Dawn, those pictures are really powerful, and I'm seeing something probably very different to what you might be seeing when I look at them.
Okay.
Right. My whole outlook on emotions now is through colour.
Right.
And it's not that I'm creating colours for other people to see in emotions, but I see the colours that people use for the emotions already. It's natural for everybody across the globe to use exactly the same colours to recognise emotions.
Yeah.
And red is anger, like red rag to a bull, red mist and all that. And blue is the sad, the grief, and also the like thoughtful side. And then we class yellow as happy and black as depression. Now, when he was lost and stuck and didn't know how to resolve his problems, there was a big black hole.
Yeah.
That was that depression, that place where he was lost. That's that black on that painting.
Yeah.
But the second one with the red and the blue is really interesting, because blue to me is about thoughts. It's about everything that goes on in your head. Yeah. And the red is about the actions you take. And he was ready to go back and take action.
Yeah. Brilliant, well done.
As much as red is angry, when you put anger into a positive mode,
yeah.
that's action.
Yeah. Yeah.
If it's negative, if that is negative, then it's aggressive. But if it's put into a positive mode, it's action.
Yeah.
And that second painting is a thoughtful action with a lot of action involved. Yeah. That's lovely to see.
Yeah, and yeah, I agree. And that's for me, I'm just glad that I love painting. I can encourage him to express himself through the painting. We've got a gallery, you know, our house is getting so filled up with pictures, we're running out of walls, but it's like every day he comes over, he said, when are we doing our painting? And to me, that says he needs to talk.
Did the teacher listen to him the next day, though?
Well, because I work with angels and ideas, and I said to him, let's think about your teacher and how stressed she must have been with, this was right at the beginning of COVID. I said, and what colour should we surround her in? And she said, and he said a colour, and I can't remember if it was orange at the time, but anyway, he said a colour. He said, and I'm seeing her as listening to me now, and she's really happy that I'm in her class. Because I think she said words to the other effect. Okay. And so we were sending this thought as like, today she's going to be really pleased that you're there. And the next week, went into school, and I called him and said, how did the day go? He said, every time I felt like I wanted to be angry about something, I put my hand up and said, please, miss, I am feeling really angry. And he didn't even get the words out, but the fact that he'd actually got the attention then started to give him a voice to talk about how he feel. Instead of wanting to kick out or lash out, he actually validated how he felt. And the teacher did listen. And when I ended up having to talk to the teacher about 2 weeks later, because it didn't just stop there, it was kind of up and down for a few days. I said to her, I said, what's going on with him? Because I'm not on the legal list of parents to be contacted. So I don't really have a voice. And anyway, I said, can I just bring awareness to something that's happened there and something that's happened there in his life and something that's just happened upset him and something that's there that's happened and upset him. I said, and then you expect him to sit there for 8 hours in front of you and not process what's going on in his life and just listen to everything and take it on board. I said, nobody's listening to him. And from that day forward, she just said, she didn't say a lot, she just said, thank you very much. From that day forward, every time there was something going on in the class and they saw him getting fidgety, they started asking, Archie, how are you doing? You're doing really well today, mate. And that was all it was. They just started validating him and giving him encouragement. And now he's loving it again. And I think
children are actually really, really empathetic from young, but they don't know how to understand it or express it. Yeah. And you're right, because my Matthew, when he was 3, he had a nursery school teacher. But every morning she'd open the door and greet all of the children as they walked in, say, good morning, Matthew. And he wouldn't talk to her, he ignored her, he blanked her for weeks. Yeah. Every morning, good morning, Matthew, blanked her. And even during the session, he would never talk to her, but he'd always talk to the assistant. He'd do everything she asked, but nothing that the actual, the headmistress of the nursery would say. completely blanked her. And I realised one day he doesn't like the way she talks to her.
Yeah.
He's frightened, or he just doesn't like her.
Yeah.
So I actually went and had a meeting with her and said, and I was shaking in my boots. I felt scared of her. So I imagine how a 3-year-old felt. And I said to her, I think he doesn't like the way you talk to him, and that's why he's ignoring you. And she's like, well, I really can't believe it. I mean, she was like really shocked. But by the end of the meeting, she said, maybe I'll have to try talking to him differently. And I didn't have him with me, so he didn't hear this conversation. And after about 3 months of not talking to her, the next morning, as he went to walk through the door, she went, good morning, Matthew. And he went, good morning, Mrs. Whitaker. And she just stood there looking absolutely shocked that he actually responded, just because she changed the tone of voice.
Yes.
And that's all it was. And they are so empathetic, but they don't know how to tell you. They just react how they know how to react, but they don't know how to explain it.
Yeah, yeah, that's so true. Because if you think about it as an adult, if someone talks to you in an aggressive tone, or they're raising their voices, what do? We tend to raise our voice to compensate for that, don't we, or to deal with it.
Yeah.
As a child sitting in amongst 30 other children, how can you get your voice out there if you feel uncomfortable or unhappy?
It's true. And I remember when my daughter was in the infants, and she was learning just before she went up to sort of juniors level, and she didn't understand what she was being asked. And I've always said to both my children, both my son and my daughter, if you don't understand something, how you're being taught, please ask the teacher to explain. So she did, but she still didn't understand what she was being asked to do. So she asked again, and she actually got shouted at, sent to the head to say that she was being awkward. And she came home, and my daughter never liked school, all the way right through. She stayed on for A levels, but she never liked school. Loved her friends, but didn't like school. And she came home, and I said, something wrong? No, Mum, no, like you do. And I said, I know something's wrong, because you're usually a very happy little girl. You're very friendly, very tactile, but you sort of seem closed in. It took another day for her to decide she wanted to tell me. And she said, you told me that I was to always ask if I didn't understand anything. And I said, you should be able to put your point of view across however old you are. I said, I learned when I was a child, I was so shy and quiet. If I didn't understand anything, I never asked.
Yeah.
I never asked. I was always frightened of the teachers. I never asked. They were always bullies. And I never felt comfortable. So I said to them, I never learned. And being dyslexic, it was difficult. And that was never picked up on either. And so she was so upset when she told me. I booked an appointment to see the headmistress, went up, we had a long chat, we pulled in the teacher as well. And it did get sorted, because I said, there are so many different ways to explain to a child or even an adult how to do something. And I know the teacher must find it difficult when you've got so many children in a class, up to 30. They all learn and take in things in different stages. But it's important that that teacher, and even us when we teach, how to put it out in a different format so that child actually grasps. Or you sit with that child and you go step by step and you explain. But we got there in the end, and Rachel didn't have any more problems with that teacher. But that teacher changed. She also, with the whole class, she made sure that everybody understood what she was asking of them. So she learned as well. So it was a win-win situation.
Yeah, and thinking well done for helping her sort through that, because quite often it's so easy, and from what I've learned, not just through my experiences with my families, the children tend to, if they're not getting heard, they don't explain it, they can't go any further, so it just goes inwardly, and then that becomes emotional distress. And I think this is where, with this COVID and that, kids are going to school and there's this uncertainty, the mums and dads may be losing money and they can't work, or they've got to work and they don't want to be working. I wonder what impact this is having on the children. I really do wonder. And I want to come back to Jess, because I know her experiences has really led her to where she is today. Are you there, Jess?
Yeah.
So for you, do you think what you went through could have been stopped if you had been heard earlier on?
I see. I think it could, but then sitting where I am today, I'm kind of glad it didn't.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, because I think because I think everything that somebody goes through is, you know, whether we know the reason or not, it's for a reason. And I wish, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not thankful that I have been through it, and I still am struggling with it, but I am thankful in the sense that I'm now able to possibly help somebody else who's going through the same or similar.
Yeah, absolutely.
If that makes sense. So I wouldn't change it, but so I don't know how to put it, but I wouldn't change it, but I wouldn't want to go through it again, if that makes sense.
That makes absolute sense, Jess, and thank you so much for sharing today, because I think, you know, what you went through is basically a catalyst to what I would like to help children stop having to go through. And I can't change everybody, and I can't stop everyone going down that road, but if, you know, us sitting here today can maybe impact on one person today, and maybe one next week and one next week, and change their lives around. Yes, I agree that I think we are destined to go through things. But what if there's a load of children out there who are really spiritual children right now, or really gifted, and they've just not been heard? They just need to be validated. And we could maybe just give them a little bit of inspiration to say, there's nothing wrong with you. You know, just because you've been labelled with this or this, that doesn't mean that's who you are.
Yeah, but I think that's the issue. I think the label is the issue, because like we're telling people, oh, they shouldn't feel any different, and they shouldn't feel separated from everybody else. But by giving them that label, then we're contradicting ourselves, because, you know, by giving somebody a label, that's telling them that they're different to everybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is why, if anyone knows, I've been the last 5 years writing 2 books. It didn't need to take that long, but that was my journey. Okay, because I want to say to the children, as like, just because you've been given that label, that's not who you are. If someone's told you you're naughty, or you're stupid, or you're not good at this, or you're not good at that, or you've been given some ADHD or whatever label.
I mean, I think especially within my work, I mean, with, you know, my youth work, I think the chances are of, you know, you're hearing a story of a young person's being naughty, or a young person's misbehaving. The chances are they're not misbehaving or acting out because they're choosing to, or, you know, because they want to, or because they're a naughty child. The chances are the story, if you actually ask the story behind that, or if you look for the story behind their behaviour, it's probably going to break your heart rather than make you angry.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you. Yeah, and I think, you know, for each of us, maybe, you know, if we just spend a moment just sending thoughts out that we are listening, you know, doesn't matter what someone said about you yesterday, or this morning, or last week, or last year. Let's peel that away, and underneath there is a beautiful person who just needs to be heard. And you
I was talking to one of my students, and he's dyslexic, and he messes about because he doesn't want to try. Because if he tries and he fails, and he doesn't want to fail, so he won't try. So he mess about, and that's part of being dyslexic. Because if we don't try, we can't fail. So we're all right.
Excellent.
And I don't know if you saw Educating Manchester that they had on the television. They had the head.
Oh yeah, I watched that.
The boy that he was dyslexic. So the boy now takes it that his brain works in a special way, and he calls it his special powers. And I thought that was brilliant. You know. Yeah.
Nice. That's a good idea.
Yeah, especially the head sort of admitting that he was as well, and it's sort of wow, you know, you're ahead and you're dyslexic, and it's we made him stop and think, because kids they mess about, because A, they don't understand, you know, which is one reason, and B, they don't want to understand, because if they try and do it and they fail, and then they fail, and they don't want to fail.
Oh my God, I can identify with that.
I think nowadays
I can identify with that.
Yeah. much more.
Sorry, Jen.
It's more of a competition now. So when you get your GCSEs, like all of, it's all like, are you going to get an A or B or a C, or what is it, numbers now or something?
Yeah.
But there's so much people like, especially with, it's nothing more like, especially with today's generation, and especially with, it's enhanced with the use of social media and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But today's generation, they compare themselves to other people more so. I mean, everybody does it, but more so in the young people of today. They compare themselves because they've got social media, and it's all about the likes and the comments, and they're trying to get that gratification. So when you say they're scared of failing, they're not only scared of failing, but they're also scared of not, sort of being on the same level as their peers.
Yeah. And half the trouble with schools is it's the schools put the pressure on the children to get the good results. If they don't get the good results, from Ofsted will be in, and then they're down labelled as a failing school. So basically, it's a government, fault, and Ofsted, because you've got to show that you're a good school, and the good school goes on results in how much progress your pupils have made. It doesn't matter how well.
I think they kind of treat them like robots.
Well, they do. I agree with you. They do, especially probably more in secondary school. Yeah, because they've got to get the results to be a good school.
Exactly.
That's
that's where they're going wrong, because they're treating all the young people the same.
Yes.
But then, and then they're trying to tell, everybody's different and unique in their own way. But with them, they're categorising all of these young people and putting them through the same process and expecting them to not come out the other end achieving the different levels.
That's what I said right at the beginning. If that school doesn't suit everybody, and it's not right for everybody, but everybody is expected to fit into that same institution, that same hole. You're trying to put a square peg in a round hole, and it doesn't work.
Absolutely. And I think, because I think we could have this discussion. We could be here all day, couldn't we? Because, I think the more we think about it, and I can see you all processing there, you're all like, I can see this. As like, the more we process this, I think, if you've got any ideas, maybe come forward, because I think maybe it'll be good, like maybe one day Kay could share how she works, and maybe Amy could share your perspective, and Verity as a teacher and as a mum. And, we've all got different experiences what we could share, and I think that would relate to others. Because I think if I'm looking at the whole picture, I think when I actually start working with the remedies, the Bach flower remedies, Dr. Bach says when there's a void between your thinking and who you are is when dis-ease sets in. And I so relate to that, because what I was thinking about myself wasn't actually true. What I felt about myself wasn't true. And he said there's 12 different personality types. And my thought was, when I started writing my book, at the beginning, I think it was quite an angry book, so I had to take a couple of chapters out, so I wasn't having to go at everybody. But it's like, they're putting all these children in there, and you've got 12 different personalities. Even if it's 12 children, there could be 12 different personalities, who all need a different type of attention. And if that's not recognised, that one who's a daydreamy one, who's soaking it up in pictures and images in their head and daydreaming and not seem like they're paying attention, to get labelled as something. Where someone who's been hyperactive and go, oh, this is exciting, I want to get in there and play, and would be labelled as something else. And those labels, I think, come quite early on in the system.
I think also when you're at school, you want to belong, you want to be part of the group. And as you get older, you accept that you're different, that you're individual, that you're unique to yourself. You don't necessarily need to belong to any group as such.
That is so true.
I think they're putting so much pressure. I mean, by what you're saying, it's kind of reminding me of like myself, because when I was at school, I mean, my head teacher had said, "Oh, well, what's the point of me paying for you to do another maths exam?" I mean, I wasn't that academic, but my head teacher was like, "What's the point of me paying for you to do another maths exam when you're just going to fail it anyway?" And like, when I was at school, I remember being quite like, initially I was quite reserved because I used to get bullied a lot, but then I found something within myself to then to start well, I mean, they saw it as me acting out, but I saw it as just me being myself. So I started like sort of, you know, not wearing the correct uniform or colouring my hair like bright pink, and you know, just to try and stand out, I mean, I did, and then they started asking me, what is it that I actually want to do in life? I mean, at that age, I didn't know, and I still don't really know, but I mean, and then all I know that is I wanted to help, you know, people, and I didn't know how to get into it. And it wasn't until I met my counsellor, because the school gave me a counsellor, that and I still talk to her to this day, and that she actually, you know, she was the one who trained me to be a youth worker and get my qualifications.
Yeah.
Now at school they just deemed me as the naughty child because I didn't quite understand everything. So I mean, I've got dyscalculia, which I think is the dyslexic version of maths. So I failed all of my exams. I was told I wasn't going to get anywhere in life by my head teacher and the teachers at school. I mean, I think I say I was bullied, but I think it was the teachers who bullied me more than the other students.
Yeah. Wow. But thankfully, Jess, you've come out as a beautiful person. And I think everything that you've been through has got to be a real strength for others and a real inspiration for other people who come towards you. And I'm really, really proud that I've met you.
But yeah, so you were just saying about, you know, sort of, it's just about, if you recognise that, you know, if you stop categorising young people and just let them be, you know, who they are and develop at their own rate, then I think you'll find that, you know, a lot of young people will naturally come in because there's no pressure or expectation for them to live up to, then, and you're not providing that, I think they will come and talk to you. But because that's the basis that we run our youth sessions on. We let them do whatever they want to an extent, obviously, and you know, because we listen to them and they feel valued, and you know that they feel that their contribution is, you know, been worthwhile, like they've come to us and they've actually opened up to us. And it's just, I mean, youth work and school, and you know, you could say, I don't know, social work, for example, like they're all different styles of learning, and it's about finding out the style of learning that that person, you know, learns best.
Yeah. Absolutely. And thank you so much, Jess. I think we could talk about this all day. Sorry, Kay.
Yeah, so I really do hear what you're saying there, but I'm hearing kind of a mixed message as well, because you're saying about not categorising them, but then finding about their styles to include everybody. But you can't find somebody's individual styles and include them unless you find out what it is that they're struggling with in the first place.
Well, no, it's about finding the balance.
Yeah, it is. And I understand that labels are a bit of a contentious issue, but I see labels as the right way and the wrong way to use them. In the same way, there's a right way and a wrong way to use a knife or any other tool. There's a good thing that you can do with it, like cutting up your dinner, and a bad thing you can do is not cut somebody else with it. So there's a right and wrong way for everything, and I think the same with labels. And until I understood the labels with my son's autistic spectrum disorder, I didn't then have the power to learn what it was that was affecting him in school, like his sensory perception, his social ability. And I needed to discover that label, not to use it as a public thing for him, but I needed to discover it to understand how to help him. So I think they are important, but it's also important to use them correctly.
And it's about how you use them.
And
or how they're sometimes it's about how they're perceived.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, what Jess and Kay have said is both valid, and I think that's something we maybe could explore on another day, because we've gone well past time. It's 12:12, so if anyone's got an angel number, that's our time. But we're good women, we talk, and that's what women should do, and that's what people should do, and that's what children should do. And I think, you know, it's not necessarily the label, because I think it does help, you know, to understand where that person's coming from in their mind. But
it helps to understand, but I think with every label there can be quite a lot of judgment.
Yeah, and it's about peeling away. It's not just about the label being your limitation. There is more to you than that. And I think, you know, if we sit and listen maybe to each other talking, and we're listening to our children, or just someone in the street. My mum used to be one. She'd be in the supermarket and she'd know someone's life history. And it's like, how do you do that, mother? But, you know, if we could just spend 5 minutes listening to someone in our life this week, each day, just to give them a space to open up. And then I think we could turn people's lives around. Because you know, it's sometimes it's not about the whole therapy, is it? It's just about validating somebody and giving them value, and that helps to raise up their self-worth. And from there, it produces the good chemicals inside. You feel good in yourself, and it could be the stepping stone they need just to take that, you know, that step to get some advice. I just want to say thank you so much, ladies, because I can see we're all sitting there. We've got so much we want to say, but you know, maybe if it's okay, maybe we'll meet again and we can talk a little bit more about this. And if you've got any ideas, then let me know, and we could kind of gear the meeting towards that. Because I know with Kay, what you've done with your therapy, and you've got some ideas. Christine and Amy's got some ideas she wants to share, and it's like, I think we could just do a week-long program and just open up to the world. Okay. But thank you so much, ladies, because I think off of this, it's even given me ideas, and it's like, let's see if we can pull this together and come together maybe in a few days or weeks time, and maybe where do we take this? Maybe we could have a chatty Friday where other people get involved and maybe put their point of view across, and we could all help them.
Maybe you need something similar to mine, a 28-night live challenge.
Oh, I don't know if my nerves would be that strong. I don't know. I watched you doing that and I thought, oh my God, I think I would have panicked on the first 2 nights when my thing wouldn't come up.
That's about going outside your comfort zone and doing what you feel uncomfortable with until it feels comfortable.
Believe me, this is a big step for me today.
Well done.
Very
proud
and great.
I was just so grateful to Verity came over one day, and it was luckily just before the lockdown again. And she said, what's the matter, Dawn? I said, I don't know. I couldn't put my finger on what was wrong. I knew what I wanted to do, but I couldn't get from there to there. I was watching everyone else doing it, and that seemed fine to them. But for me, it felt like too big a step. So thank you so much, Verity. And I think we all just need that someone, don't we? Just to hear us, to listen to us, to validate what we're going through, to take us to that next step. And for me, I think if we can actually maybe instigate someone listening or reaching out today, then I think we've done a good job today. So thank you so much for sharing, everybody. And
Thank you.
I look forward to next time. And give me some input, send me some messages and let me know what you're thinking. Because I don't want it to be about me. You know, maybe you've got an idea, Amy, what you would like to bring forward. And Jess, maybe you've got a little program we could run, and then we could put some points across that we could help other people with.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
That sounds like a good idea. That does sound like a good idea.
Yeah, and then maybe we'll open it up to the world and put it on Facebook or something. And I might need Kay's help there. I'm so glad you stuck around, Kay. Okay.
Yeah, I'm amazed that I've been allowed to stay for more than 10 minutes without being super bombarded. They've been really well behaved.
They've been brilliant. Tell them thank you so much. Okay, thank you, Kay. Thanks very much, love.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
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 Bye, everybody.
And thank you, everybody. Thank you, Christine. Thank you, Verity. Thank you, Amy.
Yeah.
And Jess, have you got a minute? Jess, if you want to go, are you okay for a minute? Because I think maybe you and I could do a Zoom call together and see if we can get the video thing working. Because I love your picture there, but as a person, I would love to be able to see you as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure I can get it working. I don't know. I've never used Zoom before, so like, this is all new to me.
Okay. Well, maybe
I'm gonna
I'll
go.
Okay, thanks,
later.
Amy. Thank you,
Bye.
Amy. Speak to you soon. Thanks, Em.
Bye.
Thank you. But, you know, maybe we could work it through together because, you know, I needed Verity to come and help me. And I'm sure we could figure it out.
Start. Oh,
There she is. You got it.
can
Well
you
done.
see me? Because I can't see you.
I can see you. If you, down the bottom, there's a thing that says video.
I've just got a blank screen.
Have you? Okay.
Yeah, I've got a blank white screen.
Okay.
And I can't.
So
I can't see you.
I can see you now. Let's have a look.
Oh, hello.
Can you
I
see me now?
can't you. No, because my screen is just white.
Okay. So that's interesting. I don't know how to change that actually. Oh, hang on, wait a minute. I've gone off into filter
Oh,
something.
wait.
Okay.
I don't. Yeah, I don't know what.
Have
I
you
don't
got a
know
little?
why I can't see you.
Should be able to because I can see you, and I don't actually know enough about this. And this is one of the things
Yeah,
I was
my
worrying about.
screen is I think it's where the internet's lagging. So I think the white screen is where your video would be.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Okay. Can you scroll across? Scroll your screen across.
Which way?
Try both ways. That's your picture, yeah. And then go back the other way. It comes back to you.
Right.
Okay. If you go a little bit further.
It just mutes. It just unmutes my.
Okay. Well, at the top right-hand corner, there is a little
Top right
button.
hand, yeah.
Yeah, top right-hand side. There's a little thing that says View.
View more.
View. Yeah.
I don't know where I'm looking.
Okay.
Hang on.
Okay.
It
So
just says leave. It says leave.
on this side. Oh, okay. There should be a little thing that says View at the top right-hand side of your phone. So that be.
Yeah, it just says leave. So, what about if I leave and then rejoin, and then that might work?
Okay. Yeah. I've got just turn the recorder off though because we're actually yeah. I've got to put the other rest stuff out to the world. Okay. Is that okay?